is the news and talk of Texas. Now, it's the Rick Roberts Show on 820 AM, 99.5 FM, HD2, News Talk 820, WBAP.
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
And good afternoon, 2:04 the time. It's Friday. We made it. Not bad. This is the What Offends Me hour. All morning. I get up early in the morning. I'm used to doing morning drives. So, I get up 5:30, 6 o'clock, 6:30 sometimes if I sleep in. And I start prepping for the show. Everybody's offended. Every single person I've heard on the news is offended. This offends me. That offends me. What he said over there offends me. But who? Kathy Lee Gifford. She was married to, was it Dandy Don Meredith? Frank Gifford. That's who it was. Man, I didn't even recognize her. I kept looking, and she's a lot different. Have you seen her?
I have.
She doesn't even look like the same person. But what am I talking about? They're offended about something, and whoever the co-host is on that show, it comes on like at 2:30 in the morning or something. But they're offended by something. Everybody in D.C., they're offended by something. LL Bean, we're going to stop selling guns. We're offended. I didn't even know they sold guns. Everybody's offended by something. And I started thinking, well, shoot, what am I offended by? I'm offended by everybody that's offended. Now, what are you offended by, David?
I might have to give that one some thought. Nothing really offends me that much.
Yeah, me either. There is, by the way, you can check me out. You can fact check me if you like. There is no constitutional right to not be offended. It's not in there. I've looked. It's not. There is no constitutional right to not be offended. Everybody's offended by something every day. Most people just don't make an entire lifestyle out of it. Everybody's offended by something. So I figured, hey, well, I'm nothing but, out there for the people, right? So whatever offends you, get it off your chest right now. It's what offends you. That's the hour. What are you offended by? I mean, I could go through a list, I suppose, but I generally just deal with them as they come up. Lee, what are you offended by?
And this is kind of petty, but when people run down my TCU Horned Frogs, that really offends me.
I'm sorry, the what?
The TCU Horned Frogs.
Do they play ball?
Yeah. You just offended me.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that was a good one.
I'm sorry. Well, that's not petty. I get the same thing from everybody around here about OU. But I'm
Who?
Yeah. I'm at an age now where it doesn't bother me. But I mean, seriously, turn on the news. Somebody's offended by something, and they have no problem making a lifestyle out of it. I'm offended by this. I'm offended. That gun offends me. That ammunition offends me. You know what offends me? Or weak-kneed idiots that won't deal with the root cause of most problems. Now, if you kill a snake, you don't start at the tail and work your way up. And I've killed plenty. You just don't. We need a musical interlude or something. What offends you? Because I guarantee you, somebody's offended by something. Democrats offend me. Well, that's not true. Not all Democrats do. You probably work and live next door to Democrats. Not all Democrats are uber liberal morons like we have in D.C. I mean, some of them are pretty nice people. They just get things wrong a lot of the time.
Is that growth over time that makes them that way?
Growth over time?
Exactly. So the longer they're in D.C., the more...
Oh, well, D.C. is a totally different reality. I've worked there before.
Okay.
And basically training Fox News people from New York how to do radio. Talk about having a root canal without anesthesia.
That would offend me.
That
a root
was
canal,
what it was like.
That would offend me.
No, it's a separate reality because nothing operates there the way it operates in normal society. It's a bubble, and they're all playing the game. If you don't play the game, that political machine chews you up and spits you out, and that's just the way it is. I mean, you can't change it. Most people go to D.C., oh, look, it's Washington's monument. Oh, look, it's the Lincoln Monument. Oh, look, well, about 8 blocks from where you are is where everything's going on, and it's all done, wink, wink, nod, nod. Everybody's, playing the game. I guess that's a bit offensive because I don't think that's how the Founding Fathers set things up. I don't think they envisioned it that way. But it hit me today as I was prepping for the show. And for me, prepping for the show is getting as many different reports on news stories as I can get. Because if I do that, then I can kind of read between the lines to determine what's true and what's fake news. And if you don't believe in fake news, you're laboring under a sad misconception. It's there, and it's used every single day. I'm obligated to watch MSNBC and CNN and Headline News and, of course, Fox and all the rest. But you got to know what the other side's doing. And it's just, today it just hit me right between the eyes. It was like everybody's offended by something. And the first thing that hit my mind, it was a mantra for the show. You don't have a constitutional right to not be offended. You just don't. We're going to be offended every single day. Now, what you do with that is up to you. If you want to, belabor the point, then be my guest. I choose not to do that. Sometimes I make my voice known. Sometimes it's not worth it. But at the end of the day, you're offended. So, in this hour, it's all about what offends you. All right? Now, whatever it is, Lee's over there, that's pretty lame, Lee. My TCU horn, okay, all right. So that's the only thing that offends you.
I hate all the, I don't want to say hate, I dislike the media's portrayal of Trump. I feel that he's not getting
Well, that's
a fair
because
shake.
it's all negative all the time.
Exactly.
No one's 100% right or 100% wrong 100% of the time. So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's offensive because obviously, you're not getting the entire story if it's all one way. All right, this is what we're going to do. If you're offended by something, maybe I offend you. Who knows? If you're offended by something, we'll take your call. All right, just get it out there. Just, I'm not a therapist, nor do I play one on the radio, but I think this could be helpful, don't you? Seriously, yeah. Whatever's offending you, man, I just can't. This is on my last nerve. I can't deal with this. What? Tell me what it is. We'll talk you off the ledge. I promise. 1-800-288-WBAP. 1-800-288-9227. What offends you? That's this hour on News Talk 820 WBAP. All right, 2:16 the time. It's the I'm offended by hour. Everybody's offended by something. Sitting watching TV early this morning, it was like I couldn't find a station where somebody wasn't moaning and groaning about something they were offended by. And I thought, you know what? We need to have the I'm offended by fill in the blank hour. So that's what we're doing. Is it Fetty? Is that right?
No, that would be Freddie.
Okay, Freddie. Okay.
I apologize.
We need some typing classes? Is that
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay,
It's been
Freddie.
like 20 years since I took one.
Well, all right. That's part of your job. Freddie, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Rick. I listen to your show every day. I'm able to, and I can't wait to get on sometimes and talk to you. But anyway, listen, the thing that offends me the most, I'm 62 years old, And I get so fed up with hearing about all these people being offended about something. That's what offends me. Back in the day, you didn't get offended at everything. You had a problem with somebody, you had it out with them, and that was it. You just move on. Now, I mean, they got to take it out on everybody, and everybody that has got to pay because one person is offended by something.
Yeah, whether it's I'm sorry, we don't believe in God, we don't believe in Santa Claus, we don't. As a matter of fact, we don't believe in Christmas. So please don't say Merry Christmas at my child's school. Shut up! I mean, stay home in the month of December then.
Yeah, well, we don't do Christmas. But we don't hold it out because somebody else wants to. You know, I mean, that doesn't offend me. It's just we just don't do it. You know.
What do you guys do on December 25th?
Well, we go to church. We're in church a whole lot, and you know, the way we believe is that the birth is not one thing that Christ says remembering by. He says, "Remember my death," and so that's what we put all of our trust in.
So you don't put up a Christmas tree or presents or any of that.
No, we give each other all year long. We want to give somebody something, we give it to them.
Now, see, I was raised by my grandparents, and we were in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday chili supper. We were there. If the doors were open, we were there. But they humored me by putting up a Christmas tree. I mean, the presents were like flashlights and fishing tackle and things that we used every week anyway. All right. So Freddie, according to David that typed it up, Fetty, he's offended by people that are always offended. Freddie, that's pretty good. I like that. Let's go to William in Lancaster. William, thanks for waiting. How you doing, William?
Yes, sir. Doing good. I appreciate you having me on, sir.
You bet.
Yeah, so my opinion here, my offense is the liberal agenda. And I guess I'm also offended how the Republican conservatives don't actually try and expose it more.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? It's like
Yes,
the Republicans somewhere in the last 20 years have forgotten how to win anything. They can't even put together an effective bake sale in the high school parking lot.
Yeah, you're not getting there.
It's seriously. I mean, they don't even know what it's like to table legislation. They are totally reactive. That's why I was glad to see Trump come in there. I mean, any change is better than no change.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy him exposing it completely. And, you know, the Twitter, I think I actually enjoy a lot because the fact that everyone else gets offended, especially the liberals, when he's out there posting all of his feeds.
All right, so there's William from Lancaster, and what offends him is the liberal agenda. And not to be outdone, he's offended by the Republicans not doing anything. Pretty good. I like that. Nice job. Chaz in Dallas. Chaz, thanks for waiting. How you doing?
Well, thanks for putting me on.
You bet.
I'm offended by these high school students down in Florida not taking responsibility for socially rejecting and pushing the guy who turned into the gunman.
Oh, you mean the bullying stuff?
Yeah, I mean, loners are the ones that take revenge because they just sit around and seethe, and they don't have any friends or people to get open with to work stuff out. And in their alone solitude of exile, they build up these fantasies, and sometimes the fantasies turn into I'm just going to get a gun and shoot them all fantasy.
Right.
Now, if they'd said, you know, we were responsible for making this demon who came back to haunt us, I've never heard any of them say that. And society, and you know, you went through high school and middle school even nowadays. It's a social sort of nightmare for some students.
Oh, I was bullied unmercifully. By my next door neighbor. Well, you know, we didn't live in neighborhoods, but you know, this kid was like 10 feet tall when he was in 5th grade. And believe it or not, I'm not making this up, his name was Zachary Taylor. And I didn't hit a growth spurt until about 6th, 7th grade. And this kid would chase me home from school, and if he caught me, I knew I was going to be eating grass. Until finally one day, you remember those barbecues we used to have, Chaz? They were like made out of stone and had those big heavy grates on top of. You remember those?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, I finally outran him pulled that grate with all my might off that stone pedestal, waited up on the back porch, and the sun was just right so I could see his shadow coming. And I swung that thing. Of course, it pulled me off the porch, and he ran into that thing like the front of a Dodge pickup. And he never bullied me again. As a matter of fact, we ended up being pretty good friends.
Well, there you go. And you suddenly became, you switched things around.
Yeah, we changed the dynamics of the relationship. I'm not going to eat grass, and you don't have to get hit in the head with an iron grate from a barbecue grill.
Yeah, but the problem I have with the high school students, to return to that, is they're all standing in front of us, adults, saying, you have failed us, and this is what you should have done.
Right.
And none of them are seeing that the fingers pointing has got three others pointing back at them going, what did we do to make this demon appear in our midst? Are any of us responsible? Could we have reached out to him and become a friend?
Well, the problem is you've got these uber-liberal adults that are utilizing these kids in a time of grief, and what they went through is pretty tough, but they're being treated like little adults instead of 15, 16, and 17-year-olds. And that just compounds the problem. And you're right. They need to be treated like teenagers. We're here to console you and to pat you on the back and, give you a cookie or whatever you need, but we're not going to treat you like adults because you're not adults. So all of this, you failed us, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. No, that was uber liberalism run amok, unchecked. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. We're just all in this big experiment together. And next hour, I'll prove that to you. All right? I'll prove that to you. All right, 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. It's the What Are You Offended By hour. I kind of like this. Everybody's offended by something, right? Except Lee. He's so petty. He's got nothing over there. I guess David is offended by the keyboard on a computer from what I've seen so far today. All right, 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Your calls straight ahead. What are you offended by? All right, 2:33 the time. Did you hear that story just a minute ago that Eric Bushman was talking about? A caged gorilla statue that was removed from a Texas park earlier this week after the city received complaints that the structure was racially insensitive. What?
In Corsicana?
They're going to put it back, evidently, without the black cage. The mayor told Fox News, we're going to bring it back. We're just going to get rid of the cage. Well, gorillas belong in cages, don't they? You don't have gorilla. Oh, I guess you got gorillas in the mist, They're all running around.
Yeah,
how's it racially insensitive?
Only if you think that way. Only
the gorilla statue that it's been at Corsicana's Community Park for nearly. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
But it is the I'm offended by hour. All right. As I started prepping for the show about 6:30 this morning, I really wish that I could get my internal clock to change. After decades of doing morning drive, now I do afternoon drive, but I can't turn my clock, my internal clock off. So I get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, start prepping for the show, and then, it's 10:30, most of the news is over, and I'm going, now what do I do? So anyway, everything I turned on today, somebody was offended by something. And I'm yelling at the television like I normally do, which is you don't have a constitutional right to not be offended. And I thought, well, I'll just do I'm offended by fill in the blank hour. So that's what we're doing. Tracy in Arlington. Tracy, thank you for waiting. How you doing, Tracy?
Rick, thank you, and thank you for having me, man. I'm offended by the traffic in Dallas-Fort Worth, man.
Oh, between the two cities?
Yeah, well, people just rude, driving 55 miles an hour in a hammer lane, not turning on their signals, pulling out in front of me, slamming on their brakes. I drive a gas tanker, Come on, really? Seriously?
You know what I'm offended by? I'm offended by 18-wheelers that drive 3 abreast on a 4-lane highway in a driving rainstorm.
That offends me too, brother.
Okay, well, good. Because even with flaps, you're kicking up a ton of water. There's no way to pass those guys. And I mean, literally, for 10, 15 seconds, you're driving blind.
Oh, absolutely. And some of the truck drivers are worse, just as bad as some of the people that, are driving cars.
I
don't
got
know
to
what happened to professionalism anymore.
You got that right. I broadcasted out of Southern California, San Diego, for about 16, 17 years. I flew back and forth every 10, 12 days, but I still had to be there for, a week, 10 days at a time, every other week. And I thought when you fill up 6 lanes of traffic going one direction, bumper to bumper, and morning drive starts there about 4 a.m., I thought I'd never see drivers that bad until I came back to Texas. I'd forgotten how bad the drivers are in Dallas. Nothing personal if anybody's out there driving, but we've got terrible drivers.
Oh, I know it. And hey, and one other thing that really offends me, Rick, is the fact that they want to take the guns from people, because I spent 10 years in the military, man. If they would have come to me and said after I got out of the military that I wasn't going to be able to purchase a gun, I'd have thrown that one at them and told them to defend themselves.
That's not, I got a call the other day, Tracy, got a call, a kid, 13 years old, 13. And he said, Mr. Roberts, very polite young man. He said, I can take a loaded firearm, set it on a table, and if a human being doesn't pick it up, it will never hurt anybody.
He's absolutely correct.
Yeah, he's a lot smarter than most liberal adults out there. Yeah. Tracy, good talking to you. I appreciate it. Stay safe out there. Let's go to Sandy in Tyler, Texas. Sandy, thanks for waiting. How you doing?
Hi, Rick. How are you?
I'm good.
Well, I was calling first on one topic, but I got offended by your phone screener, and he really offended me by cutting me off.
He offends me too. I'm with you. I'm right there with you.
How do you deal with it?
Well, I'm behind glass in here. I can see him. I just don't have to deal with him.
Well, I was calling underneath the Texas State Penal Code, if I remember correctly, I believe it's 42.1. It's regarding the disorderly conduct. But if you go through it, it talks about unlawful offenses. So why is it that you can say a bad word on one television station, you can't on another because it's offensive language, and there's laws against that? But everybody has to have their feelings hurt and be offended by something, but like you said, it's not held up by the Constitution.
Well, what you're talking about, that Penal Code 42.1, has to do with, you're right, disorderly conduct and all the related offenses, and abusive language, indecent language, profane language. Evidently, the people that came up with this never went to a mall on a Saturday afternoon. And if it incites a breach of the peace, as crimes go, this is a decay of the decorum of society. And most people don't even know what decorum is, but that's what it is.
Yes.
But if you've got a bunch of kids using profane, vulgar language in a public place, and the language incites an immediate breach of the peace, I think is how it's written, then, yeah, it's against the law. But, as laws go, not many people are going to be, even making obscene gestures, like, giving that one-finger wave in a public place. It's... I agree with you. I agree with you, but, we man, if that's the only problem we had, we've got no respect for others or ourselves in schools. We've got, profane language is the language of the day, because nobody's held to any accountability.
And that's my point. You can have laws on the books where if you do something any place and somebody finds it offensive, depending on which judge you pull or what goes on, somebody's offended by it.
Right.
So, just like you said, the decorum of somebody and who you're dealing with, you talk to 10 people, they're going to tell you 10 different things.
Well, I'm a big advocate of putting God and prayer back in school, and it's not just
Amen.
because I believe in God. I mean, I've got it up on my Facebook. How many people have we reached with that posting now, David? By the way, this caller doesn't like you very much. Anyway, yeah. How many?
56,000 last time.
We had that a day ago.
I'll check it here in a second.
Okay, all right. Nothing like having information at your fingertips. But it's about 60,000 or so. So, that's, if we can get that out to people, you go to, I don't know if you're on Facebook, but you go to Facebook, WBAP, and scroll about halfway down, and you see hashtag God and Prayer back in schools. And, I've got somebody, a friend of mine, that has a national audience that has agreed to let us, share the numbers when they get up there. So if you get a chance, go there.
Wonderful. Will do. Have a great day.
Hey, you too. And, give David another chance. He's a nice guy.
Hey, I got that number now.
I don't know if he keeps offending me. I may just have to cut him off like the liberals do.
Okay. All right. David, you heard.
She's going to cut me off just like my wife. It's okay. I got it.
Oh, there's a shocker. Oh, so what's the number now?
61,178 people.
61,000 have been reached by that. That's good. All right. Let's check your afternoon drive. Hopefully it's going okay. Hopefully nobody's getting crazy out there. We'll come back, take your calls. I'm offended by fill in the blank hour. That's what we're doing. I'm Rick Roberts. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Your calls, they're straight ahead. All right. You're probably not getting any satisfaction if you're offended by everything, right? Thought about this about 6:30 this morning. It's like it click. I'm offended by click. I'm offended by click. I'm offended by, and it was like, whoa, what is this, National I'm Offended Day? So I decided, hey, I can do that. That's not tough duty. So this is your chance. Even though there's no constitutional right to not be offended, what offends you? Let's go to Larry in Arlington. Larry, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Larry?
I'm doing great, sir. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
What I'm fed up with is just stupid bullies.
Bullies? Like what kind of bullies? Like in everyday life or what?
I was a child that was really small through junior high and high school. And I was bullied back then in junior high, 7th, 8th, and 9th. I was bullied from 7th through the 8th grade. And I always thought it was funny because I would get out of school and I'd run to my school bus because they wouldn't pick on me, after I got on the bus. But it took them almost 2 years to figure out that I got to school early because I rode the bus.
That brings to, I said I was bullied as a kid in elementary, and I was, and got over that. But I was raised by my grandparents, and when my grandparents got too old, they got up there in years, God bless them, I went off to a boys' ranch. And the boys' ranch was at Lake Tenkiller. It was the Southern Methodist Boys' Ranch. And they would take us on the ranch bus to Tenkiller State Park. And there we would offload from the ranch bus onto the Vian's a little town in Oklahoma, the Vian school bus. And it was, a pretty good trip. And we'd get in, and we were known as the ranch boys. And so there was a fight every day because, the kids from the town would just be waiting on us. And sure enough, we'd pull up. They knew what bus we were on. And you had to fight your way into school and fight your way out of school. I had it pretty easy because I played football, so I got to stay in town and have a hamburger on Friday nights. And I got to know some of these people. But, man, it was a fight every single day. And, you know, I've been back to that area, and I wonder whether whether the kids in the town still do that to the ranch boys. I hope they don't, because that was, man, you'd get on that bus and just dread, you're getting closer. You know, if you want your buttons to stay on the shirt, go ahead and unbutton them now. I mean, you know what I mean? It was just one of those things, and I sure hope they get along better now than they did back then.
Well, I still remember the two guys' names. I won't give you the last names. The first name was Jerry, and the second name was Billy, and the other one was Billy.
Jerry Jones.
They caught me one morning, and, you know, they've always said you don't put a coward, you know, in a corner because there's only one way for him to come.
Right.
And they stuck me between a building and an I-beam. And the thing I remember the most is the guy that Billy Williams actually bit me.
Bit you?
Yeah, he actually bit through my thumb. But to make a long story short, I beat the crap out of both of them because I was scared I was going to die.
And you probably were friends later, weren't you?
No, they never wanted to associate with me.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, see, Zachary Taylor was my bully, and after I almost killed him, I got in a lot of trouble with, you know, swinging that iron grate. But we got along fine after that. So.
Well, I embarrassed them because I was 4'11" all through junior high and high school. Now, what was funny about that is I actually entered the Marine Corps in 1968, and my parents seen me leave at 4'11". When I came back after boot camp and ITR, I was 5'8".
Yeah, that's called a growth spurt. You know, my son, man, he was frail looking, little skinny arms, little skinny legs, and he's a towhead then. He's got dark brown hair now. But my dad, my real father, I didn't grow up with him, was like 6'8", 6'9". He was from Stirlingshire, Scotland. A huge man. And, I met him in my 20s, but my son was so little bitty, teeny tiny, and it was, I thought, no, this poor kid, he's going to be beat up his whole life. And he hit 5th or 6th grade. And it was like I couldn't keep the kid in pants and shoes. He ended up he's almost 6'5" now. He's over 6'4", about 240, left-handed. Was throwing a, 85, 90 mile an hour breaking fastball when he was 16 years old. I mean, you never can tell. So if you got a little kid in your family, be nice to them because they'll grow up. They will. I don't know if they'll grow to that degree, but they will grow up. All right. If you're offended by fill in the blank, I tell you what, the lines are full. David, no, don't go to the phones unless you're going to be nice to people, all right?
I'm always nice to people.
Now, we want decorum. You know what
That's
that
right.
is, right?
Yes.
Okay. We want pleasant, professional decorum. So
okay.
Check with them. They've been on hold. I don't want to ignore their patience.
We got some good ones in there.
If they want to hang on, I'll take the calls right after the top of the hour, right?
Okay.
Now, be nice. I'm serious.
Okay.
Be nice. Don't make people mad.
I'll use my inside voice.
Lee, will you take care of this? I mean,
I'm on it.
You're in the same room with him. Yeah. All right. 2:55 the time. I'm Rick Roberts. Eric Bushman standing by in the WBAP newsroom, the very latest breaking news. And we'll check that afternoon drive for you as well. Man, it's a nice day. On News Talk, 820 WBAP.
This is the news and talk of Texas. Now, it's the Rick Roberts Show on 820 AM, 99.5 FM, HD2, News Talk 820 WBAP.
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
Oh, man, that was great. Ah, come on, Orrin. Stop beating around the bush. Tell me what you really think. That was the soundbite of the week. I'm going to play that for you again. All right. Rick, I'm offended by fill in the blank. That's what we're doing. Sometimes my best ideas, not that any of them are necessarily something to write home about, but some of my best ideas come at like 5:30, 6:30 in the morning. It's just, for so long I was on the air at that time of day. Your body just, maybe it's like muscle memory. Everything just starts kicking in about that time. Well, I'm going all over the channels, prepping for the show. Everybody is offended. Democrats are offended. Republicans are offended. Gun owners are offended. Anti-gunners are offended. Kids are offended. Adults, everybody's offended by something. And I thought, really? There is no constitutional right to not be offended, but people are offended nonetheless. So I thought, well, I'll find out. So we're doing the I'm offended by fill in the blank hour. All right? Okay. So we'll take your calls, 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. It's Joey in Fort Worth. Joey, thank you for your patience. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Okay. What's going on, Joey?
Well, I'm Mr. Rick, I'm offended by people taking God and prayer out of school.
Are you a student, Joey?
Yes, sir. I was the one on the show the other day.
Oh, you're the one that said you can take a loaded firearm, put it on a table, and if nobody picks it up, it'll never harm anyone.
Yes, sir.
If memory serves, Joey, you're what, 13, 14 years old?
Yes, sir.
Well, good for you. So you're offended by, I'm offended by that too. And I think we're seeing the end result of that vacuum that was created when you took God and prayer out of schools. Obviously, there was a vacuum, and it was filled by something not too great, something we're dealing with right now, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
What's your answer, Joey? How do you get back to self-respect and respecting others? I mean, how do you get back to that in your 13-year-old mind?
Putting God and prayer back in schools, because this country was founded on biblical principles.
Yes, it was. That's what, not all the founding fathers were Christians, but the country was found, there was a general consensus to found the country on biblical principles. I don't know that ever hurt anyone, did it?
No, sir. And like you said the other day, we didn't have any shootings back then when God and prayer was in school.
Do you go to public, you don't have to tell me where, but do you go to public school or are you homeschooled?
No, I go to public school.
Wow. I don't know how you got this far without being influenced in some way. You must have some really great parents.
Yes, I do.
Well, tell them Rick Roberts said great job, will you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Joey. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. How's a kid get to be 13 in today's public school system and not be so demoralized, so jaded, so disrespectful? His parents must be working overtime on him. That's good. Kudos. Sharon in Dallas. Sharon, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Sharon?
I'm doing fabulous. And first off, I want to thank you for articulating what I feel sometimes. Sometimes I get so mad about something I can't really say it, but you really get right to the point and the meat of the situation.
Well, I hit the mark once in a while, Sharon, but I'm glad you feel that way. Thank you.
Yeah, and it looks like you got your greeter in line because he was very nice. So.
Okay, so David's back to being civil to people? Okay, that's good.
Correct.
All right.
So I have 4 things, and maybe 5, depending on how number 4 goes. So
all right.
I'm offended by people that don't know what the word merge means.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes. I'm offended by toll roads.
Toll
roads.
Oh, toll roads.
Okay. Pay me your money, let me drive on the road that I've already paid for.
Yeah, exactly. And you probably paid for it 10 times.
Correct. The third thing is I'm offended by people that don't understand the Constitution says freedom of religion, not freedom from religion.
Well, there's actually a group. I used to debate their attorneys like once every couple of months. There's a group called Freedom from Religions. You know that?
Oh, no, sir. Well, isn't that the Supreme Court? Oh, no, never mind. Oh.
Good one.
No, I did not know that, but shame on them, you know?
Well, they say they're just operating in everyone's best interest and trying to adhere to the Constitution. And, of course, every time we get together, we go nuts. Yeah, it's a Freedom from Religion Foundation. And I forget where they're out of. It doesn't matter. Wisconsin. That's where they're from. Madison, Wisconsin.
I got a feeling I know where they're out of, but never mind. The third thing, the fourth thing is that my company will celebrate or allow celebrations for Cinco de Mayo, but not for, do you know what today is?
It's Texas Independence Day.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. So Cinco de Mayo can be celebrated, however, Texas Independence Day cannot. I don't get that.
Do you even, do you know what Cinco de Mayo is?
Yes, it's when Mexico got independence from Spain.
Nope, it's not.
Nope, damn.
Nope. Actually,
articulate that for me.
most Mexicans in California believe it's the Mexican Independence Day, and it's not.
Okay.
It commemorates the Mexican Army's victory over the French Battle of Puebla on May 5th of 1860-something, under the leadership of, I can't even pronounce his name, it doesn't matter. But no, Cinco de Mayo celebrates a battle between the French Empire and the Mexican Army. They weren't supposed to win, and they did. That's what this day is.
So did that lead to anything that would lead me to believe that it was Mexico and Spain? Or I'm just totally off smart?
No, well, most people believe, forgive me, most people believe that Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May, is the Mexican Independence Day. But actually, Mexican Independence Day is September 16th.
Okay. Oh, well. So we're about 3 months too early. But, and I'm sorry I didn't do my homework well enough. Although I still am offended that I can't celebrate Texas Independence Day.
Well, find out what they do. In the early 19th century, Napoleon occupied Spain. And that led to all kinds of revolts and fights and skirmishes. Hidalgo Castilla, I think. He was a Catholic priest, and he launched the Mexican War of Independence. So the Day of Independence for Mexico, September 16th, I mean, that's about all the Mexican history I remember. But it always made me laugh in Southern California. Kids would walk out of school and carry the Mexican flag down the street. I think Cinco de Mayo, I think the whole holiday came up by Corona beer and Tecate and a few others.
Well, you know, my last one was, I was offended by Oklahoma, but the fact of the matter is, I think you just took that away.
Well, good.
I know where it's from.
At least I did something right. I appreciate the call. Let's check your afternoon drive. All right, 3:17 the time. Most of you know who Orrin Hatch is, right? He's a politician. I think he's an attorney, too. Served as the senior United States Senator for Utah. He, in the past, has been the president pro tem of the U.S. Senate. You know, it's like Eric said. It's amazing how honest these politicians get when they're leaving and they know they're not coming back.
That was the stupidest, dumbass bill that I've ever seen. Now, some of you may have loved it. If you do, you are one of the stupidest, dumbass people I've ever met.
He was talking about Obamacare, believe it or not. Yeah, well, easy there, Orrin. Easy. You're offended by what, Harry from Waco? How you doing?
Oh, this is Harry?
Yes. This is
Okay,
Rick.
yeah, Harry. Okay, thanks, Rick. Listen, first of all, I'm offended by politicians who represent we the people, yet they got such small kahunas that when one person objects, they remove a statue, and the rest of we the people are saying, hey, if you're offended by that, let's the rest of us vote on it. We may not agree with you.
Oh, you wanted a public referendum on the taking down of the Confederate statues.
Yes, or anything in the future for that matter. Hey, the rest of us have a voice too, But anyway, some politicians just don't quite.
Well, you got a Democrat for a mayor. What do you expect?
Right. Yeah, that sort of explains a lot. But the other thing that bothers me, worse than that, is the guys who have boom boxes that are so loud that they come by the street at 1:30 in the morning, rattle you out of bed. It makes me think that maybe they have to compensate for kahunas that they may not have. I don't know. I find that offensive.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of sitting at a stoplight and my windshield wipers are bouncing off the windshield because, some idiot next to me he can't hear anything, obviously, in his car. He's probably, the speakers are probably worth twice what the car's worth.
Right.
But don't you remember back in the late 70s, everybody was carrying, the bigger the better, the boom boxes around?
Right. You bet.
Yeah, I hated that. That offends me.
At one point at school, I got so angry. I just walked into the student center, and this guy is playing loud, and it just ticked me off. I walked over to him and said, listen, I'm in my car listening to Band X FM station down there in Killeen. And
no, you were probably listening to a Bread 8-track. That's what you were listening to.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm listening to my music, and he ruins it by his loud boombox. I said, look, you forced me to hear your music, and I'm inside my car. Now, I want to force you to get out of your car. You come to mine. You listen to my music now.
Man.
He got so mad, and I went ahead and called the campus police. I said, hey, you want to complain about this? Let's you and I talk about it, and let's have a referendum, and let the policeman moderate. And he turned his sound off, he shut up, and he drove away. That bothers me.
Well, that's one of my pet peeves. I got tons of pet peeves. I just do. And I don't know, maybe I've been around too long, but I've got tons of pet peeves. And that's one of them. A lady brought up, nobody knows the definition of merge. Everybody thinks it's, slam the gas down, and everybody in the meantime is pulling off blue smoke from their tires, trying to keep from hitting you. I appreciate the call. Janice in Mansfield. Janice, what are you offended by?
TGIF.
What?
It's Friday. I said TGIF. It's Friday.
It is. You're right.
I'm offended because I'm in Facebook jail, and the only thing I can kind of think of is because I liked and shared the getting to church and prayer back in school, but that may not be it because I'm kind of wild and crazy, but I don't know. I was wondering if any of the other listeners have been put in Facebook jail since they commented.
You were put in Facebook jail?
Yes. I can't log in. They won't send me the password, and it says that it may or may not straighten out within 38 hours.
38 hours.
They usually will just send you a code so that you can make a new password and log in. And I know I put the right password.
Well, what did you do, Janice? You must have done something.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm wondering if it's because that I liked and shared and commented on putting prayer back in school.
You know what? I've heard similar stories from other people. We put a Facebook post up on WBAP. I don't have a personal Facebook anymore because it was just I had to hire somebody to keep up with it. So we posted it on the WBAP. You go to Facebook, WBAP, scroll down about halfway. You'll see my picture for the second time, I think, and it's hashtag put God in prayer back in school. And if you click on that, then you can hear about a few minutes of that show. And we ask people to share it. And we're up to 60,000 people contacted. But I don't know, Janice. You sure you didn't do something else?
I'm not positive, really.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You started the weekend a little early, didn't you, Janice?
No,
No, you
18 years.
Be honest with me. You started the weekend a little early, right?
I promise. I have not drinking 18 years. I'm just like this.
Papa Top again.
Now, see, Janice, doesn't hurt to tell the truth once in a while. All right, 3:24 the time. We'll take your calls, 1-800-288-WBAP. That's 1-800-288-9227. I'm offended by fill in the blank. A lot of people were offended by producer David in there, but he's doing okay. He's straightening. That's okay. They'll wait until you get around to taking their calls.
I got them all right now.
What? Well, now you do.
Yeah. You had to hang up on her in order for another call to come on.
I see. Well, Janice.
Papa Top, bud.
Have a great weekend, Janice. It sounds like you've already started.
That was the stupidest, dumbass bill that I've ever seen. Now, some of you may have loved it. If you do, you are one of the stupidest, dumbass people I've ever met.
Man, they sing a different song when they're leaving for good, don't they? That's Orrin Hatch talking about Obamacare. This thing, you just heard Eric Bushman talking about a caged gorilla statue that was removed from a Texas park earlier this week after the city received, you just heard the lady, about 45 complaints that the structure was racially insensitive. I want to talk to those people. What's racially insensitive? I'm looking at the picture of it. You got a big black cage, and the gorilla is inside, got one arm raised. How is that racially insensitive? I mean, I'd love for them to open their mouth and tell me. It's called Gorilla Park. They're bringing it back, by the way, except they're not going to have it in a cage. This is the dumbest. I tell you what offends me. People that find racism every time a cloud comes up in the sky. Are you saying black people look like gorillas? Is that what you're saying? Or gorillas look like black people? I mean, say what you mean. They put it up about 18 years ago, and they watched kids play on it. It'd swing back and forth. A piece of art weighs close to 500 pounds, I guess. The old adage, 500-pound gorilla in the room. It's been interesting to see the response about the removal. Evidently, since some people find it racially insensitive, the city's going to spend extra money and add additional animal statues to make it look like a zoo in the park. Well, where else are you going to see 500-pound gorillas except in the zoo? See, that kind of stuff, man, you got to go out of your way a long way to come up with a bitch and moan and complain about that. I mean, you truly do. Let's go to Bill in Plano. Bill, what offends you today?
Well, besides Joe Biden's six-figure grin that he's got, I told your caller I had two. You mentioned Condoleezza Rice being on The View, and I get to thinking about their applause sign really irritates me because you can't win an argument on that show. No matter what kind of logic visitor comes up with, they're going to have the applause line, and then the applause sign's going to come on, and there you're going to sit with nothing going for you.
Well, I can't. I've tried, because they had a guest or something. I can't watch the show because they're all talking at the same time. I've been wearing headphones for 25 years. All I hear is white noise. I can't. I think women have an extra rung on their DNA ladder, and they can understand when 4 or 5 women are talking at the same time. Men, we can't understand it.
White noise isn't racist, is it?
Oh, wait a minute. I hear colorblind noise. How's that?
Well, that's fine. Yeah. Another thing I hated was it gets me is when you watch TV shows now, it's always the man that has to be put in his place by the women, and it's even that way on children's TV. You'll hear some guy, he'll make some sexist remark, and the sign goes on telling the audience to go, "Ooh," and then you know he's about to catch it from the girl.
Well, most sitcoms, the man is always the dolt in the relationship. The woman's always the one figuring out the problems. The guy's, just walking around bumping into doors. It's all by design. I said the other day, I was sick and tired of gay shows on television. I mean, I don't care if you're gay or anything. It just, when I watch TV, I don't want to be preached to. I'm not gay, so I don't get the gay humor, I guess. I know lots of gay people. I'm friends with some gay people, and they don't act like that. They don't bounce around and, what's the word I'm looking for? When you're over the top gay. Flamboyant. Thank you. They don't flounce around. All right? They're just gay. But, they don't walk in with a feather boa, Rick. They don't do that kind of thing. Okay, now I'm going to get cards and letters, right? But, I mean, they don't look like they're marching in a gay pride parade every time I see them. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even come up. So, what is they brought back, the two guys and Deborah Messing, Will and Grace. Supposedly, it was wildly popular. I can take about 5 minutes of it, and then it's just like, I don't know any gay people that act this way. And I know plenty of gay people, but none of them act like that. And then I turned on another one, and it was about kids at some school, and there's a certain faction of them that are gay. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a homophobe. I'm just saying I don't get the humor because the gay people I know don't act like that. Or maybe that's it. Maybe they're writing for a straight. Well, you're sitting there laughing because we're going to be inundated with emails. Maybe they're writing for a straight audience using the gayness of a character as entertainment. I don't think that's funny either. I don't like that any more than I like the black sitcoms. Oh, no, you didn't. I mean, I don't know any black people that talk that way. And I know tons of black people. They don't talk that way. You know what I'm saying? Shaking their head from side to side. It's a stereotype. They're perpetuating stereotypes for entertainment purposes. So don't get on me. That grill over there, that's what I'm saying. Well, what are you talking about? It's just nuts. Okay. I've said too much, haven't I?
You haven't.
Let's go to Scott. Scott, how you doing?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Well, I'm not offended. I'm getting mad.
You're getting mad?
Well, take offended about 10 steps further. I'm a born native Texan.
Right.
And I was ticked off when they were taking away trying to erase the Confederate history, which were Americans. So, and that nonsense. And now this gorilla thing, I laughed when I heard that on your news thing, and you brought it up. I'm glad you did, because I was going to bring it up. That shows the idiocy of it. But now they're wanting to take down the Alamo. And it's like, you're going too far. These people are going too far. And there's a voting I heard on a commercial on WBAP where I wish I took the man's name, but it's happening March 6th. And he's going, hey, I remember the Alamo, and I'm going to keep it up. Because whoever that guy is that's wanting to take it down because it's offending the Mexicans, tough. History is history. Back off, else you'll see the Alamo battle again.
Yeah, nobody wants that. But, yeah, I don't like history revisionists. Things happen. Not all the things that happened were great. We've progressed past that point as a civilized society. So to say it didn't happen, that's a lie. History is history, and you can't change history. So the best you can do is tell the truth.
Exactly. And let it stand and move on. Learn from history and move on. There's a saying, if you know the past, you know where we're at in the present and where we're going.
Precisely.
That's the whole reason and they're trying to change this past so they can head it their direction. They being those that are doing all this behind it all. And it's just, I pray to God that people have the sense enough to know it's time to stop. and vote against that and vote against all this insanity, the gorilla thing. There's a weakness that was shown in our government on all levels. And that weakness now was because of them trying to be politically correct and give in for votes, whatever. But it's gotten so out of hand now that they want to, raise Cain about a gorilla or tear down the Alamo or whatever. And it's time for us to stand up as American citizens and say, hey, enough. Enough is enough.
Well, that's one of the reasons, I don't want to get all serious on you now, but that's one of the reasons we put up hashtag God in Prayer, put God in Prayer back in schools. Well, Rick, what about the Jews? I got friends that are Jews. I got no problem with it. Well, what about the Hindu? What about the Muslims? You know what? If you can clear out a classroom so you can throw down prayer rugs in the middle of the afternoon for what I consider to be a false religion, I think it's an ideology more than a religion. I mean, if you can do that, then I shouldn't have to hide my God out in the car. And whether you like it, whether you don't, whether you think it's right, whether you think it's wrong, the Founding Fathers founded this giant human experiment called America on biblical principles. And I don't care what denomination you happen to be, biblical principles work for everybody. Unless you think God's Muhammad, and then you got a problem. 3:42 the time. Let's check what are you guys doing? You're looking at me like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
No, go ahead.
Is the legal department behind me?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
I can make a phone call.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
I'm sure they're fully aware. Let's just table that. Your calls straight ahead. Let's check that afternoon drive.
Get out of my bed! You get out of my bed! That's your bed! This is my bed! If this is your bed, it would already be made! If this was your bed, it would be shaped like a race car, and you'd be clutching your whoopee! Now, Scram, I'm naked over here! Wait a minute! I'm naked too!
Okay. Do you see why I don't get Will and Grace? I just don't get it. But then again, they're probably not writing the scripts for me. All right, let me get to your calls. I'm offended by fill in the blank, and there's no shortage of things people are offended by. Russ in Dallas. Russ, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Russ?
I'm doing good. How are you, Rick?
Good.
I'm offended by the word look. You listen to these talking heads every night, and the first thing they say is, the guys will ask them a question, and they'll go, look, we need to do this. Look, we need to do that. I mean, you listen to the press secretary, Paul Ryan, anybody. I mean, there must be some kind of class in broadcasting school where they say, hey, don't say the word look and talk down to all of your listeners. It just seems like every one of them says the same thing.
Would you like me to tell you what that is?
What is that?
It is a broadcasting issue. It's called a verbal crutch. When you learn how to talk on the radio, talking on the radio is different than you and I would be talking if we were having a cup of coffee. The person that used the word look more than just about anybody else was Bill O'Reilly. And what it is, it's not a directive. It's not really talking down to the audience. It's a verbal crutch. Instead of saying, letting your brain catch up with what you're saying, you throw in look. Okay, while you're saying look, you're thinking about the next thing you're going to be saying. It's called a verbal crutch, and we all have them. Anybody that broadcasts for a living has a verbal crutch. And, you try to get rid of those things if you can, or at least minimize them. Nobody gets rid of them 100%. But that's what it is. It's a verbal crutch where the broadcaster or the person talking is thinking of the next thing that's going to come out of their mouth.
Well, when you're in the business of knowing what to say, you'd think you'd know what to say without needing a crutch.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Just because you make a living broadcasting doesn't mean that everything that comes out of your mouth is grammatically correct. Or it does. In some days, and I've had them too, some days your brain is just not catching up to your words. I don't know how to explain that other than I can't sit here and have dead air. I got to keep talking. And sometimes the brain and the verbiage there's more of a lag time than other times. I don't know how to explain it to you other than that's what it is. It's a verbal crutch.
I do understand, but listen to the press secretary the next time she talks, and she will say, look, before she answers every single thing she says.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably, well, it was like Bill O'Reilly. I mean, Bill was a big liberal before, what was it, Day and Date or whatever it was he worked on. Bill and I had an interview. I was reading the names of child molesters live on the air and their addresses and so forth, and Day and Date thought that was something that Bill needed to come spank me for. And we ended up having a pretty good debate. It's not double jeopardy. It's part of the sentencing guideline. It's part of public domain. But when Bill turned to conservatism, almost the beginning of every sentence, almost every time, started with luck. And it sounds a bit demeaning, like I've got the answer, you don't know anything. But that's not what it was. It was just a verbal crutch, letting his thoughts catch up to the words coming out of his mouth behind a microphone. And I do it too. You can't be in broadcasting and not do it.
Well, that makes sense. It doesn't seem like I hear you say it very much, but. Well,
I try to think 2 or 3 sentences ahead. But I've been doing this for 25 years too. I mean, I guarantee you it wasn't that good 25 years ago.
Well, it's pretty good on my end, Rick.
Well, Russ, I appreciate the call very, very much. Russ is offended by the word look. Okay, look. Let's go to a call. Brian, thank you for waiting. I appreciate it. How you doing, Brian?
Pretty good, Rick. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm sitting with my daughter. I just picked up school. I tried to call you yesterday, but I had to get out of school zone and all that nonsense,
I got you.
And I'm talking on the phone right now, driving, going to pick up other daughter. Anyway, yesterday's show was great. I firmly believe what you said about you got to, put God and prayer back in school. I'm old enough to know that I saw it back in the 50s and 60s when these things started happening. Didn't think much of it, But to go back to that, and also I'll give you a little pet peeve. It's something what liberals do, which, is everything. But yesterday, when you had the put back God back, and people don't know right from wrong anymore. They just don't know. And even people that weren't Christians, they didn't argue about it because there's certain things you just can't argue about, like, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. So the tenets of the Christian religion, they were accepted by everybody. And now they just thrown them out. Now they just don't know right from wrong. And
there's no respect for oneself. If you don't respect yourself, you're not going to respect anybody else. Biblical principles work. It doesn't matter what theological doctrine you subscribe to. They work. They're universal. And, I get hammered all the time. Rick, you're for the death penalty. Well, yeah. Well, you can't prove it curtails crime. Well, you can't prove that it doesn't. At least it thins the herd. Well, I thought you were a Christian. Well, I try to be. Well, the Bible says thou shalt not kill. No, the original Hebrew text says thou shalt not murder. Two completely different things.
Yep. I think just a little word like that is great. My peeve is mostly liberals, of course, but when they don't acknowledge or try to forget where we came from. The Founding Fathers relied heavily on the Judeo-Christian religion for their laws, their culture, their things they believe, and it's so glaring that that's the way it was. They don't even acknowledge it. They just want to wipe it out, forget about it.
Well, yeah, the first thing they'll say is, this founding father or that founding father, and there were several, didn't necessarily believe in God. Well, that's all the more reason to accept the principles that they decided would be best for everybody. They didn't come at it from a Christian perspective. They came at it from a perspective where everyone would be treated fairly.
Exactly. That's a good point. Yeah, you're right about that. That's really good.
Well, you went and picked up the kids from school, huh?
Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for my my 17-year-old. She's second on the list. Capella is like crowded like crazy. You wouldn't believe it. Takes you 10 minutes to get to Louisville from here, and about 20 minutes to get through Capel.
You know what? I'm telling you right now, in years to come, you will never regret the time when you were picking them up from school.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Been many a time. Man, I wish I could go pick the kids up from school because we had some of the best conversations. It was great.
it's like a captive audience there. You know, they almost have to listen to you.
Yeah, they have to.
Once you get the phones away from them.
Listen, thanks for the call. I appreciate it very, very much. Eric Bushman standing by in the WBAP newsroom, very latest breaking news, and we'll check that afternoon drive for you as well.
This is the news and talk of Texas. Now, it's the Rick Roberts Show on 820 AM, 99.5 FM, HD2, News Talk 820, WBAP.
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
All right, 4 minutes after the hour. I got to get to this. If you've been patient enough to wait on hold, I promise you, you will get your day in the court of public opinion. So hang on just a second, and I'll get to your calls. But I wanted to bring this up in hopes that we get rid of it. The net has been cast, and it's getting bigger in Broward County. Catching up those who failed to stop Nicholas Cruz from killing 17 people. Now, if you're an uber liberal and you're waiting for me to say something about an AR-15 or gun control, you're going to be laboring under a sad misconception, climbing out on the limb of speculation, fully confident it will hold your weight. It will not. The Broward County School District's highly touted Promise program, get a hold of that so that if you get home tonight, maybe you got some time to go to Google or whatnot. Promise program. It was initiated in 2012, signed into policy in 2013. It prevented Nicholas Cruz from getting arrested. And that's basically what it was designed to do. But it was designed to keep people of color from getting arrested. It could have blocked Cruz from purchasing his weapons if he was convicted. In the 2011-2012 school year, Broward County Public Schools had the highest number of school-related arrests in the entire state of Florida, at a little over 1,000. I don't remember exactly. Newly hired superintendent, Robert Runcie, I believe is how it's pronounced, had strong connections to the Obama administration, so they teamed up with community organizations like the NAACP, local law enforcement, and government agencies to sign the collaborative agreement on school discipline to eliminate, key word there is eliminate, the schoolhouse to jailhouse pipeline through programs like the Promise program. Promise stands for Preventing Recidivism through Opportunities, Mentoring, and Intervention, Support, and Education. Sounds good on paper. Well, one of the program's participants, juvenile court judge Elijah Williams, was speaking at a 2013 signing ceremony for Promise and made it clear it was all about the stats. We already bought the ticket. We're waiting for our numbers to come in. We know we've hit the jackpot when our school-related arrests go down, down, down. Again, I can't say that. I started to say something, and then I realized you had kids in the car from picking them up from school. It was a collaborative agreement. It was signed by the superintendent, Sheriff Scott Israel, which is now fully embroiled in this mess to get Cruz off the streets, state's attorneys, the president of the Broward chapter of the NAACP, and a ton of other people. The fundamental goal was to keep minority students involved in various transgressions, shall we say, away from law enforcement and out of the courts. In one feature of Promise, Judge Williams circumvents the criminal justice system by participating in a simulated court hearing called the Juvenile Justice System of Care. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but sounds good. He encouraged the delinquent student to participate in the program rather than get arrested. Well, you'd have to be deaf, dumb, and blind to say no to that, right? Okay, here, participate in this program or get arrested. What do you think anybody's going to do? The Obama administration Department of Education was also involved in implementing Promise. Obama routinely dangled carrots in the form of matching federal grants to local districts if they would participate in Common Core. Remember that? And Race to the Top, it was another program, doled out millions and millions of dollars to Broward County. With the promise of federal money, it's no surprise that Superintendent Runcie, annual salary $335,000, he was happy to oblige his friends in D.C. Within a year of Runcie's arrival, student arrest rates were down 66%. Did they stop committing crimes? No. They just stopped getting arrested. Broward County schools were about to hit the federal jackpot. On October 5th, 2016, the school board of Broward County Public Schools and its community partners, they signed the Promise Agreement for the second time. Well, after the 2016 signing, they announced a couple of weeks, later, I think, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, on October 18th, BCPS was the only large urban district in the country to receive a teacher incentive fund. It was a grant from the U.S. Department of Education totaling $53 million, over that actually. One of the grant priorities was listed as improved life for students in poverty / students of color. So, what happens? February 14th, Parkland school shooting. It's shedding a lot of light on Promise. And now some officials in Broward are speaking out about the school district's push to keep police out of the loop when crimes would occur in the schools. Now, the president of the Broward County Sheriff's Deputy Association, I think his last name is Bell, said the problem with Promise is that it took all the discretion away from law enforcement to effect an arrest if they wanted to. On Sunday, CNN's Jake Tapper grilled the Broward County Sheriff, Scott Israel, on the myriad of complaints his department received concerning crews prior to the shooting. I think it's up to 60 now, maybe? 60 calls from his residents? Well, when Tapper brought up the Broward County School District's Promise program as a means to dish out the least punitive discipline against students who committed crimes, unlike Bell, Israel defended Promise, calling it excellent, saying it had nothing to do with the mass shooting. Well, later, when Tapper pressed him on it, his lack of knowledge regarding specific complaints about the crew's violent behavior, saying there might be something wrong with Promise if a dangerous individual like Cruz is allowed to avoid arrest after committing felonies. Israel again said there's nothing wrong with the Promise program, asked Tapper if he will resign. Sheriff Israel said he has no intention of resigning. To date, no one has publicly asked Superintendent Runcie the same question. And I think they should be asked the question. This is the dumbest program I have ever seen in my life. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to participate in a program or do you want to get arrested? Oh, gosh, give me like a nanosecond to figure that one out. 13 minutes after the hour, 4:13 the time. I'm Rick Roberts, News Talk 820 WBAP. All right, 18 minutes after the hour, 4:18 the time. As promised, if you were patient enough to hang on, I'm going to get your calls. I'm going to tell you also how to get involved in that Facebook post and what we're doing with that. Let's go to PJ in Arlington. PJ, thanks for waiting. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Rick, great show.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, has anyone out there had anyone on the freeway when it's raining, and I mean, I'm talking sprinkling, with their flashers on. They're always with their flashers on. And they're going like 30 miles an hour. They're not only with the flashers, they're slowing down like it's ice.
Oh, that's Southern California all over again.
Well, then they've invaded us here because they're everywhere. I mean, every time it rains, I see at least 4 to 5 people.
Yeah, a cloud comes up in the sky in Southern California. You know, they hit those emergency flashers. They get in the right-hand lane. They're doing 25 miles an hour in a 75-mile-an-hour zone. I guess they think they're going to slide off the highway. I don't know.
I just wish that they would just not drive, just stay home, because they're not always staying in the right-hand lane.
Well, that's true. You know, I hate the campers in the passing lane too, and you know, I try to stay out of that as much as I can because, you know what? I'll tell you where I learned that. I lived for about 12, 13 years in Evergreen, Colorado. That's one of the more significant mountain towns as you climb up the Rockies out of Denver. And, you know, I worked downtown Denver. I started my talk show career at KOA down on Lawrence Street. And, you know, I lived on Bear Mountain. I mean, literally single-engine aircraft flew below my house. And you would get, in the wintertime, you would get all these people from all over the United States. The first thing they did was go rent a 4-wheel drive as if they don't slide like everything else. And they had no knowledge of how to climb a mountain. You get over. You don't impede the progress of anyone in the left lane. But you're right. I mean, here it's like, well, I'm white-knuckling this thing. I'm doing 25 miles an hour. I got my flashers on. Hopefully they can see me. Yeah, we see you.
Yeah, there's more of them, it seems like. Every time it's raining, I'm seeing at least 4 to 5, and I'm not exaggerating. It's like there's more every time it rains. So and I just actually just left Whitefish, Montana, and those people drive great up there, and they have snow packed on the roads and ice underneath there. I don't see any flashers on up there.
No, I know that area pretty well. I managed the Williston Basin operations and the Powder River Basin operations for Occidental Petroleum and some others. So we were in Billings. We were all over the place. But you're right. I mean, also out there, the cities are so far apart at the time, and this has been a while back. They didn't have speed limits. If you were going too fast, you got a ticket for failure to conserve energy. But people blasted, and nobody ever had a wreck. And I shouldn't say that, but you didn't see them very often.
All right. Well, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say, people, if you're scared to drive in the rain, just stay home. We don't have to get somewhere. We don't want to get behind you.
Yeah, PJ, don't make PJ upset. You'll get some road rage going on.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, PJ. Have a good weekend. Let's go to Mark. Mark's calling from someplace in Louisiana. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, how you doing, Rick?
Good.
Hey, I'll tell you what offends me. People who say way too much at the end of the day.
Oh, at the end of the day, yeah.
Well, actually, that's just annoying. What really offends me is people who are offended by what I say or do. Don't talk to me. Walk away.
Yeah, there are those people that, believe it or not, are always looking for a confrontation. I mean, you and I probably both know somebody that doesn't, they don't feel complete unless they've got some kind of drama in their life. I'm crazy or drama I run from. I don't want anything to do with either one of them. But there are people that simply are looking for confrontation all the time. I don't want to be around those folks either.
Yeah, I agree. I have had my share of those too.
Yeah, a little of that goes a long way. I mean, life is going to deal you out some pretty bad hands just on the face of it. Don't go looking for them. You know what I mean? I'm with you. Slow and easy. Everybody will get where they're going. Don't need to make it worse than it is. Darren in Dallas. Darren, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Darren?
Doing good. How you doing, Rick?
Good.
Yeah, I love the show. I just wanted to comment on something that offends me. That's every time I'm driving down the freeway, and as a Caucasian man, I see the restaurant Cracker Barrel. It's got to go. I'm going to start standing out front with signs. We got to do something about this. Who do I need to call? Who do I need to call?
You don't like Cracker Barrel, huh?
Yeah, no.
You know what I was looking at the other day, Darren? You'll appreciate this. It was restaurants that have gone out of business. Steak and Ale was a pretty decent lower end steakhouse. They're coming back, by the way. But I saw the name of a restaurant where a buddy of mine worked in high school. He was a cook, and he that was his after school job. It was called Sambo's Restaurant. Do you remember those?
No, sir.
Yeah, Sambo's Restaurant. They were big in the South, and it had on the inside they had the mural of Sambo. He was out in the jungle with all the animals and all that kind of stuff. Well, you can guess what shut them down.
What was that?
Well, I mean, they're going nuts over a gorilla in a playground, and here's a restaurant called Sambo's. Come on.
Yeah, you're right.
That was going to last about 10 seconds.
What else I wanted to talk about is something that no one else has really touched on is the lack of discipline. They took away the discipline from the parents, and along with taking Jesus away from in the schools, and you taking the discipline away from the parents, and then look what we have. I mean, we've done it to ourselves.
Well, I have heard that argument from the very beginning. I'm a parent, and I can't parent. I can't discipline. They'll come haul me away. I think that's a hollow argument. I raised a couple kids, and if they needed discipline, I gave it to them. And if anybody had anything to say about it, they could say it to my face. There's a difference between swatting a child and beating a child. And for those that don't know the difference, they're too stupid to have kids in the first place. But when it comes to discipline at home, I believe that, in just my opinion, Darren, when parents say, well, I can't even discipline my child, that's why they're off the rails, that's an excuse. That's just an excuse. I don't believe that for a second. And, I've been around law enforcement my entire life. Nobody's going to come haul you off unless you've done something to your kid that requires you being hauled off. Getting a swat on the backside for touching the stove or being grounded because you missed curfew is not going to get you hauled off to jail. All right, 4:33 the time. Somebody just called up and said, is Rick a homophobe? No, I'm not a homophobe. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're gay, straight, tall, short, fat, thin. Doesn't matter to me. All I said was these gay sitcoms I don't get. They don't strike me as funny. You have to take them one of two ways. Either you're in that lifestyle, so you find some humor in it, I guess, or you're straight and you're watching it, and they're making fun of stereotypes of gay people. Either way, it just doesn't make sense. Does it?
Ah! Get out of my bed! You get out of my bed! That's your bed! This is my bed! If this is your bed, it would already be made!
That's funny?
If this was your bed, it would be shaped like a race car, and you'd be clutching your whoopee! Now, Scram, I'm naked over here! Wait a minute! I'm naked too!
Okay, see, I don't get, do gay people make their bed? I make my bed in the morning when I get up. Does that mean I have gay tendencies or something?
I don't think so.
Is that a stereotype of gay people? They make the bed? I'm sorry. I just don't get it.
Neat and orderly.
I'm not being a homophobe. I just don't. Well, did you make your bed today? Yeah. You're gay. No, I made
my bed.
I don't. Well, see, you're gay too then. Marty.
Okay. All right.
Marty in Spokane. Marty, how you doing?
Doing fine. I was listening earlier on in the show, and you had somebody come on. I think they said they were offended by people who are offended. And I want to take a different approach. I'm offended by people who are not offended.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's time for the conservative Christian base of the Republican Party, or any party, whether it be libertarian or whatever. It's time to get involved, and it's one of the lowest voting blocks, as far as voter turnout, is the conservative or the Christian right. And, maybe we wouldn't have to have hashtags for God and prayer in school if more conservative Christians would take a stand. And I blame a large part of it on the individual churches themselves, because you've got ministers, pastors, reverends that are afraid to take a conservative stance on any given issue for fear of losing their tax exemption.
Right.
And by and large, that is not necessarily true, because unless they contribute financially to a political campaign or contribute financially to a referendum or some other type of thing, they're not going to get in trouble with the IRS. But it's time for the pulpit to get back to telling its flock that, hey, look, we need to get behind these ideas and ideals and stop allowing the left to dictate the moral standards by which we should have been living for a long time now, and we haven't been.
Yeah, look, you know what it boils down to? It boils down to social decorum. You know, what is accepted, what is not accepted, what you should expect from a civilized society, and what you should expect not to have to deal with. You're right. You're absolutely right. And that's why, I put up that Facebook post. Biblical principles are what the founding fathers finally settled on for this grand human experiment called America. And for good reason. Even though some of them weren't Christian, they realized that those biblical principles worked for everyone. Whether they were Christian, it didn't matter. And that in itself lent credibility to what they were doing. Very, very good call, Marty. I appreciate it very much. Mike in Dallas. Mike, thank you for waiting. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, Rick. How's it going today?
Going well, thanks. How about you?
Going good. Going good. Hey, you know that guy, Jonathan Gruber? He was one of the architects for Obamacare.
Yeah.
It offends me. Guys like that offend me. When he said, quote, they proposed, speaking about Obamacare, they proposed and that passed because the American people are stupid to know the difference.
Yep.
So the idea is we're just too stupid to understand how wonderful Obamacare is. So guys like this have to lie to us. They can't tell us things like he said, the CBO not score the mandate as tax. If they did, the bill would die. Or if they told the American people, healthy people pay sick people, healthy people pay and sick people get the money, then the bill would die. This whole idea that we're just too stupid to understand these great things that they want to do for us, so they have to lie to us in deception, and it's okay because we're just a bunch of idiots. We can't understand if they told us the truth.
Well, we got played incessantly. Democrats were desperately distancing themselves from Obamacare. The architect, Jonathan Gruber's who you're talking about, he never worked on our staff. Remember that? President Obama said he was in Australia or someplace. He said, oh, no, he never worked on our staff, even though Gruber was paid almost $400,000 by his administration. For what? If he didn't work on it, what was he paid for? He was the intellectual author of the individual mandate, and he met in the Oval Office with Obama numerous times and the head of the Congressional Budget Office to try and figure out the final version of the bill. Remember Nancy Pelosi? Oh, I don't know who he is. Well, in her case, she may be telling the truth. She just can't remember, even though she repeatedly cited him by name during the Obamacare debate. I mean, we got played like a cheap fiddle on this deal.
Yeah, that really offends me. And so many people that I talk to just say, well, all politicians lie. And so that's an excuse for that. And I just feel like if they would just tell us the truth and, whatever the majority of the people want, then, that's fine. That's their business. I'm not going to vote for it, but whatever they would want. If they want socialism, and it's they fully understand it, I don't think that's going to happen. I think if the American people knew the truth and were educated, that they would do the right thing. But I'm just saying that I just wish they would tell the truth so that, the people knew what they were getting into. And they didn't get that from Obama or any of the architects Obama had. You name anybody, all of them lied. Nancy Pelosi said, we have to pass it to find out what was in it.
Yeah.
When she quoted it, like you say, she quoted it so many times, she knew it was in that. Everything's and Joe Biden used to play us. I remember I talked to this other talk show host, and he would say, that Joe Biden's stupid. I said, no, he's not stupid. He thinks we're stupid.
Well,
He's
that's
playing
the whole point. The Gruber videos, and I think there are 5 or 6 or 7 of them, they mock the stupidity of the American voters and, brag about the Obama administration's ability to take advantage of it. Did you hear what Orrin Hatch is, he's the senator from Utah. Did you hear what he said about Obamacare?
Probably refresh my memory.
Well, he said it today because he's leaving. He's not coming back. So I guess he figured it was time to be honest. This is what Senator Orrin Hatch said about Obamacare.
That was the stupidest, dumbass bill that I've ever seen. Now, some of you may have loved it. If you do, you are one of the stupidest, dumbass people I've ever met.
I think that's probably one of the few times we actually got an honest answer out of a politician. All right, 4:42 the time. Let me step aside. Let's check that afternoon drive. All right, 4:46 the time. Several things we were involved with this week, and for the last couple of weeks, I've been bringing you up to date with Eagle Gun Range and David Prince. David is the owner of both locations, Farmers Branch and Louisville. When the Richardson police officer, David Sherrard, and we learned more information last night, he was shot literally seconds after entering the apartment, and the other police officer said, like, the guy was in a prone position on the floor, and it was like he was hunting them. Officer Sherrard left behind a wife and 2 girls. Almost immediately, David Prince stepped up and said, okay, let's do a raffle. And he's raffling off a nice rifle. Those raffle tickets are $10 a piece. And then one of his vendors donated a pistol, nice pistol. He'll tell you about that. Another friend of
Tommy or JT, can y'all bring me
another vendor donated one of those metal fire pits, that are really nice if you got a backyard. And then he got tickets for a Stars game. I mean, almost center ice, have access to the Lexus room, and every single penny will go to the family of the fallen Richardson police officer, David Sherrard. And we've been trying to do what we can to keep it alive. A lot of you have reached out in a tangible way, so my personal thanks to you for doing that. And David is with us this afternoon. David, how you doing?
Rick, I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day out there, and we're just appreciating all you've done for this family and your listeners. We're closing in on about $32,000. We're just a little short of $32,000.
Wow.
And I was hoping to raise 10. We were excited when we broke 20, and we're closing in on $32,000 as of this afternoon.
Oh, that's
we still have about 9 more days to go. So 9 more days, and people can come by and buy the raffle tickets at either one of the stores, or they can go online and donate to this sweet family.
Yeah, it's first of all, tell people what you're raffling off.
An FN SCAR. It's a 16th Model 16, and it's a 5.56 beautiful flat dark earth rifle. And then our vendor gave us a HK 40 cal pistol. It's valued about $700. The rifle is valued about $3,400, and then the Circle J gave us a fire pit that's valued about $1,000, and then Star tickets are probably worth about $800, and those were $5 tickets. The other ones are $10 tickets. The other 3 items are $10. We decided to set up a little separate rifle for the Star tickets. So if you want to come in and just buy a $5 ticket instead of a $10 ticket, we have something for you as well.
That way,
games.
that way, everybody can reach out if you've already got your firearms, and you don't want to buy a raffle ticket for that. You got the Stars tickets, you got the Fire Pit, and if you just want to donate, tell them the website they can go to.
It's www.eaglegunrangetx.com, and just right at the top, you'll see a picture of the officer and a place that says just donate, and you can click on there. And 100% of the proceeds of that and the rifle and our raffle is all going to the family. We have donations that cover. We gave the rifle. The distributor gave the pistol, and the Circle J gave the the Fire Pit, so we can give 100% of those proceeds to the family. And we're, like I said, we're closing in on $32,000. And thanks to you and your listeners and our great customers and our wonderful employees have been pushing this really hard and trying to tell this family how much we love them.
If you want to reach out in some tangible fashion, let the police officers know that we support them, and we do. It's not political. There's nothing political about this. But police officers, they do it every day for us. And tragically, this police officer, like those before, has fallen. It's I almost feel obligated when it comes to our police and our first responders, our deputies, everybody. We're there for them, and just like you are. And we got to reach out from time to time. It's not something pleasurable because it means someone has lost their life, but you reach out in a tangible fashion, and you make a difference in someone's life. So, again, we're closing in on $32,000, David. That's pretty good.
Yep. Yes, sir, and we've got 9 more days, and we'd love to have people come by, and let's, I was, like I said, I was excited to hit 10, and I was kind of dreaming of 20, and I'm just totally ecstatic on 30, and I wouldn't mind hitting 35 now if we can just get 9 more days. So that thin blue line stands between us and chaos. They put their lives on the line every day to make sure we can go home safe at nights. And
amen to that.
I'm crushed that this has happened to them, but like you said, we'd like to be able to tell them we love them, and there's a lot of people. We've got over 900 people that have donated so far, and another few, and we can top 1,000 people that have shown their love. And that's just us and our small part. There's tens of thousands, 100,000 people here that love our blue, and they just haven't found a way of expressing it, and we're just trying to give out a few people a chance to express their love for them.
This is a good way. David Prince, owner of Eagle Gun Range, and I tell you, either go by and buy a raffle ticket at the Louisville location or at the Farmers Branch location, or you can go to Eagle Gun Range TX for Texas to the website and donate there. So, David, we'll check back with you next week and see if we've hit that 35,000 mark. I bet you we do. Also, you can go to hashtag Put God in Prayer Back in School, something we put up on Facebook. Simply go to Facebook, WBAP. Scroll about halfway down. You'll see my picture there. You'll see the link. David, you'll monitor that through the weekend, right?
Of course I will. And just for our listeners know, God in Prayer, when we use the hashtag God in Prayer, that's one word.
Right.
So some of them didn't do it the way we want them to do it, but make sure that we know it's one word.
One word. All right. That's going to do it, guys. It was a good week.
Yes,
great
it was.
Week. Everybody did a great job. Lee, great to have you along, as always. Have yourself a good weekend. And if you would, go to Facebook, WBAP, God in Prayer Back in Schools. It's about halfway down. Just scroll down, you'll find it. It's there. We'd like to get that thing up so I can expose it to a national audience, and I will. All right, that's going to do it for me. God's blessings on each and every one of you. Whether you agree with me or not, that's always my priority. I'll be back with you Monday for your afternoon drive at 2 o'clock. In the meantime, stick around. Mark Levin's next on News Talk 820 WBAP.
Up in one of them old farm towns where they hit it hard till the sun goes down. Nobody really seemed to care that we were living in the middle of nowhere. We just figured that's how it was, and everybody
everybody else was just like us, soaking in the rain, baking in the sun. Don't quit till the job gets done. That's the only way I know. Don't stop till everything's gone. Straight ahead, never turn around. Don't back up, don't back down. A full throttle, wide open. You get tired and you don't show it. Dig a little deeper when you think you can't dig no more. That's the only way I know. That's the only way I know. That's the only way I know.